You're tuned into RX Radio. Movement prescribed. Brought to you by Prescript.com. A personalized approach to keeping you healthy and making your best even better. Your hosts, Dr. Jordan Shallow and Dr. Jordan Ginta.
Oh, shoot your shot 2020.
Man, I wish everybody knew you in high school, Shallow.
Well,
like,
why?
Because it's a totally like a 180 thing.
Yeah.
Like Shallow in high school is still the same Shallow, but completely different. If that makes any sense, listeners who know Shallow from high school, totally different, completely the same. It's amazing, the transformation.
But the not transformation at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just have I don't know what the word is. I have a greater ability to be as much as myself as I was. I'm now who I wanted to be when I was in high school.
You know what? High school is you with a filter, essentially.
Yeah.
Now is you. You're just uncaged.
But I was I think I was playing the game.
Yeah, well, I think
where it was like,
are.
yeah, but it's like I find myself often, even in the last couple of days, like I just kind of look around. It's like I don't know what it means to people, but as far as this is being it, this is definitely it. Like even right now, this is a moment for me, and like this snapshot in time, this is making it.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like, we drove around that one day, like listening to 50 Cent in the range, and it's like that's probably what I thought life was when I was 16. Yeah. I was like, this is every cool guy's dream. Just gonna throw 50 on and drive a white Range Rover around the city.
Yeah, and
it's effectively what we do.
Yeah, so that for me that's making it, was just doing that. And in high school, it was like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I honestly thought it was going to be drugs. I was like, I'm just going to deal steroids until I get the white Range Rover. But no, it's I've come a long way, but also not at all.
Yeah.
Because I remember I went to Hetherington. I went to this grade school, and in the 7th grade, 8th grade, I almost got expelled. You know, I did a video project with Shane Buttonary and fuck was his name? Derek something. And anyways, long story short, I got a better grade than this other girl, Callie DeCold.
Oh yeah.
And I threw it in her face to the point where, because she said she was going to get a better grade, and apparently that mattered. And yeah, I had to sit down with the principal because I threw it in her face so hard that her mom called the school and tried to get me expelled. Oh yeah.
What?
Well, I don't know, man.
That's crazy to me.
I had a problem. Well,
I'm not saying. I'm saying it's crazy that she told her mom.
Yeah. Well, I was merciless.
Okay. I guess we need a little more context. Did you punch her in the face?
No. I just threw it in her face.
Perfect.
Yeah. So this is exactly what I do now on the internet.
Yeah, effectively.
So it's the same me that got reprimanded by Mr. Cameron in the 7th grade.
It's funny because your life at school, like your experience from school that you're relating to what you do now on the internet, it's the same for me, but different. Like you go on the internet and throw it in people's face that you're right. And I effectively did what I was in high school, which was just be like, all right, well, I'm just going to fucking punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And that's what I did in high school. And effectively, that's what I do on the internet now.
And I think it stands to reason that people don't change.
I guess not. Like I've moved to the digital space and I'm still trying to pin my address to people to fight them. So,
but I don't know. That's how I deal with other people. It's like, I know I didn't change. Like whenever I get pulled over by a cop, I always think, who is this guy in high school?
100%.
And that's how I deal with him. Right. It's like, oh, okay. Like I know exactly what this guy wants me to be. So I be that person. So it's the easiest thing ever. Like whenever I get pulled over, it is such a easy transaction for me. Cause I'm like, I know who this guy is. Because who is he in the 10th grade? He's the same person now.
Yeah, it's what I always think of too when people tell me what books I should read for self-improvement. I think you didn't get laid in high school. And that effectively colors the rest of our conversation because I'm like, I don't need it.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. I forget. It wasn't General Electric, but there was, I forget what fucking book I was reading, but they were saying to get a director level position in this Forbes 500 company, the CEO would request that you track down your grades, a grade school report card, because they give little comments like, Jordan is a good student but fails to pay attention in class. He goes, guess what? This guy's going to be fucking jerking around in fucking staff meetings and board meetings and shit, so fuck this guy. So it showed basically two things. A, you were resourceful and you could fucking go back and get this. And B, if you figure out who you were in the 7th grade, he knows exactly who you are now. And I'm like, I fuck with that. because I don't like. I have changed. The means in which I can be myself have changed, but I'm more myself now. Like every year, I think, God, there's no way I can give any less of a fuck than I do this year. And then a year goes by, I'm like, will you look at that?
Oh yeah.
I somehow care less than I did last year. This is amazing.
The goals.
I think so. How do we get on this?
I don't even know.
I don't know. I've never been suspended or expelled, which is crazy.
That's
to me.
unbelievable.
Oh,
Dude,
I have.
Lundy full on. He had a party at his house when he was living a few blocks away from
Well,
me.
I can't get suspended from my own house.
Dude, you could have when you straight up spear tackled this one girl into the next dimension. Yeah.
There's defining moments in your life, you know, well, in my
fun.
life anyway, and you know, you either define the moment or the moment defines you, right? So
deep.
I never pushed a girl ever again.
Yeah,
never laid hands on a girl.
The old cheeseburger liquor party, as it were.
It was a loving push, kind of. Let's just preface this with I'm like 320, 6'3", and she was, you know, I mean, she's she's maybe like 1/3 of the size.
Right.
And
you caught her go in a clip too.
It's like almost like a stiff arm, like a walk kind of. And honestly, you ever had Caribou Lou?
Yeah.
150.
Yeah. Dragon days. 151
rum and Malibu. I'll never do it again. It's problematic, you know. I mean, and the first step is admitting it.
Yeah, there's 11 more steps after that.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem. Well, I don't know. Not without going too far afield, but it's like, I think people think that admitting a problem is like the same as solving the problem.
Yeah, it's the idea of, well, I booked a call and talked to that guy about it. It's like, well, what did you do? It's like, I booked a call.
Right.
Need I say more?
Yeah, no.
And there's some things that you just say, I'm never doing that again, and that's solving the problem, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what Windsor was. Windsor is like running into enough shit at a young enough age where you don't realize what you want, but you definitely know what you don't want.
Oh, it's very true.
Right?
You don't know what good is, but you know what bad is.
Couple nights, A-bars, Lion's Head. I still remember there's a Tim Hortons. Fuck, we just lived in this Tim Hortons on Lozon and Tecumseh Road.
I got banned from that Tim Hortons.
Did you? Of course you did.
What a brutal intersection.
Yeah, it's not a great neighborhood. But this is unfortunately where me and Lundy called home. And do you remember the time that who got in the car accident, like right outside? Were you there?
No.
I was thinking maybe it was with Bauer. Anyways, long story short, we were in this Tim Hortons at like 11:30 at night, and it shares a parking lot with this pub called Lion's Head. It's like probably the only place in the world that still has OV on tap. Like just
so gross.
It's literally the worst. And our fucking music teacher from high school comes sauntering out. He just was gigging at Lion's Head, and he's, I don't know, maybe like 45. Frosted tips, like, yeah, he had a bit of a record for getting in the old flute room. Like, he was not someone you wanted to be left alone with. Like, a lot of creepy allegations. And I remember this guy coming out of the Lion's Head, and just, it was such a definitive moment because, like, how do you end up here? Like, how do you end up 45 years old with the frosted tips playing Wonderwall in the Head on like a Saturday night? And that's like, I don't know what I want to do, but you can be damn sure I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And like, there's so many defining moments in growing up in Windsor where it's like, you just pull in like the Drake in the Hotline Bling song. You're just like, no, definitely not that.
Yeah.
Where then you just end up out and you're like, okay, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm doing something and it's not that, which is immediately a step above where most people could end up in Windsor.
For sure. And it's the best part about Windsor is that there's such a divide in like, you have people who make millions of dollars a year there doing God knows what.
Who knows?
Then you have people who make minimum wage. They all have the ability to own a house and like do things that like here, if you're making minimum wage, you're going to be in an apartment. It's going to be in a bad place.
Yeah.
If you're making minimum wage in Windsor, you're going to be in a house on the West End. It's like, you know, it's not terrible. There's way worse places to be in the world. But these guys, like, you get to see, when you grow up, you get to see the kids who went to your school who are like, you know, these people, this is what their parents do. This is where they live. These are the rich people. And you have like that whole, basically the whole thing just in front of you. And you're like, where do I want to go?
Yeah.
Drugs? Okay, yeah, let's do drugs. We're going to go down this road. Not drugs? Okay, we'll go down this road. And that's it. And Windsor's just like the perfect spot to see everything as a young as a young human.
Yeah. You get such oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think of Windsor, and like just hearing Lundy say that makes me think of, remember the Game of Life where you get to the crossroad and you're like college or not college, and they just give you a card and that's what you do. It's kind of Windsor, and you all end up in the same place at the end. It's no matter how much money people have, everyone buys a Dodge Ram.
Yep.
Right.
Because like they're so hell bent on domestic. Everyone's buying a Ram. They make $1 million. They make minimum wage. Somehow we're all leasing the same vehicle at the same year, and they end up at that same Tim Hortons. And it's like, you just get a card and you just do that until you die. And everyone's like, well, I'll just keep going and bumping into things.
Yeah, I can't. It's so interesting to see you like across that spectrum, because it's the one thing I've always said is it forces you to have situational awareness that other people growing up in other places just do not have. But you also learn that situational awareness, and I don't know how close to danger we ever were as kids, but sometimes I felt like, that's a gun, and there's bullets in it. So that's when I even talk to other people who claim to have grown up in like hard neighborhoods, is that experience there is closer than 99% of people who grew up in North America. Or like you've been in a room or there's been a gun loaded, pointed in your direction at some point in your life. I can think of like 2 or 3 occasions where that's happened in Windsor.
Yeah.
And it's like that apparently is a rare thing.
See, that's wild to me because when I was young, I didn't really like hang out with too many kids. And my elementary school was really small. It was like 150 people for like K to 8. And I had like, a few friends like Rob Moore.
Yikes.
God bless Rob. I don't know where he is.
R.I.P. maybe?
Maybe he's a listener. Who knows? Probably not though. But like people like and Mitch McBrain and like those guys, like we just went around and like had fun or whatever. Into high school, you just got like, as I was saying, every walk of life, because in those $1 million homes, if you walk off Riverside Drive, if you walk like 3 minutes, there's co-op.
West Hand to Patterson's house.
Bingo. It's like you could walk there and not even break a sweat.
Under 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wes's parents are both like dermatologists in Canada. Or like both dermatologists. His dad for sure is a dermatologist. Anyways, they're doing well.
They're doing very well.
And West is like living out of a van down by the river now.
Yeah.
And then if you walk 5 minutes, you're in the co-op, and that's what I learned what meth was, because our buddy Jake had to explain to me why his fucking neighbor's windows were smoked out when we were like 13.
Yeah.
And now Jake is like a nurse that works at the hospital in the ER, and West Hand lives out of a van somewhere in Tofino or some shit.
And how many of those guys in the co-op are dead?
Dude, we did an inventory.
How many went to jail? How many like?
What was it? One buddies, Joel, Zero, all those guys.
Joel and Zero were in jail for a while.
Who?
Joel got clean though. That's
did he?
Good. Yeah. I mean, there's people who made the turn and saw like like that's the thing about Windsor. It's not all bad, and a lot of people think like Windsor's a pile of shit.
Yeah,
it's great.
But it's it's a really good place to live if you're not a dumbass.
But I think it's a microcosm of the universe.
That's 100% is.
It's literally universe concentrate. You get everyone from all over, every wall. Like I remember when fucking Jajic floated in on the big door from Serbia. Didn't even know where Serbia was. Like,
man, I got a lot of Serbs at my school too, and like
dude, what would have been the 90s, fucking 97, 98,
something like that.
Yeah, I think they got a group rate.
Yeah,
they got a group rate.
Came over.
Yeah, but no, it was interesting, man. It's an interesting place to grow. And I think one of the best things that's unspoken about living in Windsor is your exposure to Detroit.
It's huge,
because that's something you want to keep at arm's. Like I couldn't imagine what it's like growing up in Detroit, but like one of my favorite memories is. Because it's a gateway into the United States as a whole, which is pretty crazy. Like I remember going into Meijer with my father at like Meijer and Kroger, which are like the most north, like Midwestern institutions in the United States, and it was Easter, and lining every single shelf in every aisle was like the little ducks, and if you clicked their paws or fucking bills or whatever the fuck, it played this noise. And I remember, like, we'd walk in, and as kids, you never had that in Windsor. You never had, like, this entire fucking department store that it was just lined wall to wall. I was like, this is American sensationalism on another level.
It's huge.
So what did me and my dad do, and my sister? And much to Louise's chagrin, we just went around and clicked the entire, to the point where they came on the PA system, and we're like, could you please stop clicking the ducks? And my dad's just fucking booting it down the aisles, thinking it's the best thing ever. It's like, we never, like, it's crazy because Detroit can be like a vacation when you grow up in Windsor.
That's the funny thing is, like, when you're stoked to go to Detroit, it's like, oh, I went over Went over the bridge on the weekend to Detroit. It was great. It's like to come back to Windsor, like that somehow increased your life experience was going to Detroit.
If that doesn't calibrate what Windsor is to people who've never been, that should resonate. Like, okay, Detroit has a record for being bad, and it's better now. But when we were kids, like, I remember going
bombed out, like
Michigan Avenue.
Fallujah.
Right? There's like 4 walls and an ATM. Like, that's the only thing left. I remember driving down. I think it was Michigan Ave. I was coming back from, I don't know, the Great Lakes Crossing or one of these malls that you were just stoked. It wasn't Devonshire Tecumseh Mall, so it was the best day ever. And I remember a cop pulling up next to me at a red light, just completely deserted, nothing around. And he like rolled his window down and kind of looked around to see if there was anyone. He goes, "What are you doing?" He saw the Ontario plates. I'm like, "I don't know, fucking, what do you mean? Like red light?" He's like, "No, around here, man, you just go." And before he even finished the sentence, he was gone. I was like, this guy's got a fucking 12 gauge pump action in the middle. I'm sitting here in the 98 Sebring convertible going like, all right, if he says, I'm out. Because they would just come jack you at the red light.
Yeah. And like it got a lot of notoriety from Eminem, like just saying what 8 Mile was, and people were like, "Oh, I want to see it." It's like, no, you don't. You
really
don't. Go to 7 Mile, and then you really want to see it. Like, you think 8 Mile's bad? Take another mile down the road, and like it's just like it's so much different now, thankfully. Because,
so gentrified.
Yeah, it's like they put in like downtown is a lot different now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, there was no Comerica, there was no
Little Caesars.
Yeah. They had they had Cobo Hall and Joe Louis Arena.
Yeah, Joe Louis.
Go to Mexican Town or Greek Town.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mexican Town.
Yo.
People don't understand Mexican Town in Detroit is literally Mexico.
It is, yeah.
Like you cross that little bridge, and it's like that 2-block radius is a different country.
But and it's not like Cabo, Mexico. It's cartel Mexico.
It's like I remember going to a taco place there. The tacos are like $2. And I was like, "Do you guys have beer?" And she's like, "No, you can buy it in the street and bring it in." Yeah. And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." I was like, "No, I'll take a Mexican Coke." And then I was sitting there, and I kid you not, a pastor walked in with like the white collar and a 12-pack. Yeah. And just sat it on the table and crushed it and ate like a table full of tacos and then went back to work.
Yeah. Bit of the holy water, bit of the sacrament. Dude, I remember going, I went on a double with Prevo, my buddy Jerry. And we went to Mexican Town. And, like, Jerry was a pretty big dude. We were, I don't know, maybe in our early 20s. And, like, we were walking down the street, and there was 3 or 4 guys trying to pick fights with you.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is, like, nowhere else in the world.
No.
Yeah. So, but, again, gains perspective on, like, what Windsor was like if Detroit was the experience that was sought after.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I went over the border. Went to like a Tigers game or something.
Yeah.
That's what people live for.
Yeah, go to Tigers and go to Red Wings game. And it's, like, so cheap.
It was amazing. And it was like just before they got good was like really cheap. Mm-hmm. And they started getting good, and it was still like, I mean, the exchange was like $150 at the time. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then it got to par. Like I think we were probably like 19 or 20 or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Falling out of control.
Yeah, it was dangerous. Like you go over there, you get a 4 Loco for like 75 cents, and you just fucking pound 9 of them, and then you go watch a game, and you're like, what am I doing? This should be illegal. I spent like $7
blind.
I'm blackout drunk.
Yeah, I'm legally blind now.
Yeah. But the worst part, and I mean the inverse to that was, man, the crap we had float in from the States. Like we were working,
bad,
because when the exchange was favorable for Americans to come over is right when like the downtown, like we were 19.
Yep.
And like, I mean, I worked downtown from 18 to 21. I still get the Treehouse guy. I'll go to Devonshire Mall now. I'm fucking 30 years old. Hey, the guy worked at our Treehouse. It's like, man, you only think that because you still go to Treehouse.
Yeah, it's the only thing that reminds you.
I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah, and that was an interesting experience, man. Working downtown it's crazy. And I'm reading this book right now called Violence is the Answer. And it's working in a job where that's a thing.
I was just going to say that is the answer.
Yeah, like violence is the only answer. It's such an interesting, it changes the way you forever deal with humans. Because it's so frustrating to have that taken away from you as an option. Like we were talking earlier about the grocery store, and people are just like looking up at shit. And you're like, if this was at the nightclub and this guy was just doing this.
Just throw him.
Just, all right, you're in my way. You're going to move now. So it's like, it's almost like not that I wish I never did it, but like once you have that freedom to solve your problems with violence, and you can, and that gets taken away from you due to like the fact you can't beat the shit out of people at grocery stores. It's like, I have such a perfect. It's like people who try and explain jiu-jitsu to me. It's like I don't get it.
No,
I don't get it because it's like, what if I just punched you in the face? Then the whole ring roll about the intelligent wrestling in bathrobes thing just goes away. It's like, oh, but then you grab the gi and you do this. It's like, yeah, but then I just punch you in the fucking mouth. I can't, because it's just like there's a simple solution to your problem, and it's right here.
I don't get jiu-jitsu from like the voluntary nature of fighting another person. So it's like I don't get it.
So what do you mean by that? Like you don't see the sport in the combat? Like what about wrestling? What about boxing?
There's no sport.
What about boxing?
No, it's not a sport. It's about killing the other person.
Okay, so in your it's binary.
Yeah.
If we've crossed this threshold and combat is what we're doing, combat serves one purpose, and that's to one of us to murder the other person.
Correct.
Okay.
And why is it not that? That's my confusion.
Okay, well, I mean, what about UFC, where it's like that kind of is the goal until until Herb Dean steps in and grabs you up?
I get it from like I get jiu-jitsu as a means to an end to go to the UFC.
Okay.
I don't get the chess match that people voluntarily play. From your thing, like I've never play fought with someone. I just try to hurt the other person really, really bad.
Right.
But that's all I know. Like I only know that when someone hits me, my goal is to incapacitate them.
That's fair.
Like I don't know. I didn't do karate as a kid. It seemed real dumb.
Yeah, and it was always the kid
who couldn't fight.
Right, who did karate.
And that was the thing. Like my dad offered it to me. Like my dad grew up in like the height of Windsor in the fucking 70s when every Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris movie was out, and my dad's in the garage punching the brick wall, like learning the 6-inch punch break in his hand. And like my dad's 5'6", 225, dude has a 6-pack basically. Like he's jacked and he's like 68 years old. Like he'll fuck shit up. So it's like my dad as a kid like learned martial arts because it was the thing every white dude wanted to do in the 70s. So he was like doing Taekwondo and Hapkido and all this bullshit and fought a bunch of people and then lived in Windsor and actually fucking fought people. Right. It's like our idea. Like we're going to go do this and then we're going to go to the gym and lift weights. Like my dad was like, oh, I'm going to take Taekwondo and then I'm going to roll up in the alley and fucking spin kick a dude in the chin.
just right to practice.
And that was like when my dad started talking to me as a kid about fighting people, that's what he always talked about. He's like, oh yeah, like I had like, he's like, I went and like learned whatever Taekwondo at this place. And he's like, I never even asked for the belt. He's like, I don't give a fuck about that. He's like, I just want to learn how to like get to a point where the only other option is killing the other person so that they know. And when I was a kid, he was like, yeah, someone's going to do this. And he's like, you just do this and they die. And I was like, oh, okay, sick. So then at school, like some kid would want to get in a fight with me. I was just like, well, this is the last step before killing this other kid.
Jesus Christ. What did your mom say about that?
My mom hates violence.
But your mom, I would assume, likes your father.
No, she does. Like my dad is the gentlest person in the entire world.
Until he's not.
With the meanest streak you could ever imagine.
Okay. Explain that. Because I can see it in you. Like I think like I can see the temperament of both sides.
I'm a terrible byproduct of my own dad, and it's my own nightmare. No, like I would love to be my mom because she is so intelligent and like even keel and logical.
Right.
But I'm my dad. My dad's either the nicest guy. Like if you wore a plaid shirt, the next time you come to my house, my dad will give you 5 plaid shirts.
Yeah.
He'll go, what size are you? You'll come back and he'll have a whole wardrobe. He's like, I bought all these shirts for you. I thought you'd like them.
Yeah, that's my dad.
And it's like, okay, great. But at the same time, if you cut my dad off in traffic, like he'll follow you home and threaten to kill you in front of your children.
Interesting.
My dad did it once. We were driving and this dude fucking cut my dad off and my dad honked at him. And the guy gave my dad the finger in the rearview mirror. And I was like 6 or 7 years old. And my dad's like, no. Followed this guy into his driveway and got out of the car. He's like, fuck you. And the guy's like, excuse me? And my dad's like, let's go. And the guy's like, my kids are in the car. My dad's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't have a problem with them. I have a problem with you. And I was like, I think this is illegal.
Dude, hold on. Did you think that was... At any point, do you think your father altered his behavior to, like, for a teaching moment? Or was like, this is... You just get a front row seat?
No, that's not a teaching moment. That's just my dad.
Okay. Because I know, like, my dad has the opposite rap sheet, like zero violence ever. That's why he made me watch, like, Bruce Willis movies.
My dad is infamous in Windsor. If you go up to anybody who's between 60 and 70 and go, Andy Hamilton, they will know immediately who my dad is. We were at the Michigan Tavern, and a guy walked up, and he's like, Andy? My dad hates that. Like, he hates the name Andy, calls himself Drew. And he was like, yeah. And the guy's like, oh, man, just great to see you. good to see you're hanging in, and shook my dad's hand and walked away.
Legend.
And I was like, who the fuck is that guy? And he's like, oh, I beat up his brother for my brother. So my uncle is like, what as a kid was like a big piece of shit and would run his mouth. And then guys would be like, all right, well, after school, I'm going to fuck you up. And my brother would just be like, I'm calling Andy. And he would call my dad, and my dad's like, I guess I got to go. And he'd show up, and the other kid would be like, it's good. I'll just go home. My dad would just fuck people.
So your dad never like curbed his behavior to teach you one way or another? It's just like you're just getting a front row seat, unfiltered. Yeah. This is how I am as a person. My
dad was always like, you just have to hit him once. You just have to hit everybody who has a problem with you once.
How many times was that sentiment reinforced to you?
Until I was an adult and I could go to jail.
Which is crazy to me because I had there was one conversation that my dad had with me. I think it was going into high school. And it was about my sister. And he's like, if my dad is the calmest, nicest, he's just a newfie, like through and through. And my dad just kind of pulled me aside and just said, anyone lays a hand on your fucking sister, you kill him. And that was it. Nothing else was said ever about the topic. Like my mom is like anti-violence. My dad like used to like when I would come home from the bars, like, oh, yeah, I got the tilt last night. How'd you go? Yeah. Oh, Mike, the Jordan. She fuck him up. Like, yeah, fuck him up. But like that was the one. So I only had the violence talk once, and it was about my sister. And you're saying this was like a.
Oh, dude, my dad was always like, yeah, just hit him once, see if they hit you again. I remember I was in grade 1, I think, and a kid like choked me against a portable for I don't know what. I think it was like, I don't know, I was in grade 1 and I was like dating his sister. Like, what were we doing? I think we walked holding hands in the hallway. He was like, don't talk to my sister. I was like, who the fuck are you? And he like choked me against the portable and I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was like in grade 1. I was like, all right, well, this fucking sucks. And I told my dad, and my dad's like, you didn't do anything? And I was like, no. And my dad's like, all right. And we went to school the next day and my dad's like, which kid is it? And I was like, it's that kid. He's like, all right, confront him. And I just walked up and I like confronted this kid. And the kid was like, oh, this again. And he tried to hit me and I just fucking clocked him. And I was like, good, that's how it goes.
Really?
And he's like, never let anybody put their hands on you.
Weird. I had to deal with all that shit. I remember this dude, Mike Giannette. You remember that?
Yeah, no, I know Mike Giannette.
Yeah.
I know.
He had, like, it was like his girlfriend or his sister. Someone, like one of these chicks got at me about something. I don't know. I said she was annoying or something like that.
That's for sure his sister.
Yeah. And then did it start with a J? Anyways, didn't matter. And he was like, he was ready to fight me. And it was right about the time where I was like starting to work out. And like, I had to sort of sort all that shit out on my own. I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I approach this issue? I mean, it ended up being a non-thing, but that was a really eye-opening thing for me. It was like, I don't know how to approach this situation. And I think in moving forward, it's approaching the situation is how you approach the situation. Mm-hmm. It's like in working in nightclubs and whatever, it's 9 times out of 10, if you step up, they're stepping down.
Always.
Right? But you learned that lesson in the first grade.
100%.
Really?
And like my dad would like, whatever, we'd like do like son and dad stuff and he'd like wrestle with me and whatever. This guy never pulled his punches.
So your dad's just laying India.
Dude, he's been 220 pounds my entire life. And he's like, all right, let's go. And like my dad was like a high-level wrestler, went to Olympic trials, ruptured a kid's spleen, didn't go for it, like was out, had like probably some type of trauma from doing that to a kid. And yeah, like my dad would just wrestle me and it was like, you have to tap. Dude, my dad would just choke me out.
Really?
Yeah, and he'd be like, get out of it.
But it was like, it was for your own good. You always saw it as that?
100%.
So it wasn't like he was grabbing the belt or like laying that down the belt and the spoon and going, you decide?
No.
It was purely like, all right, we're going to make a man of you yet.
And I think the thing was like he did it from when I was so young that I realized like everyone's the same size.
Oh, because you've been fighting a 220-pound man.
And like I realized that too. Like, dude, if you get someone on their back, everybody's the same size.
We made this argument about women, and I said it's empirically wrong. He's like, they're all the same size in the back. It's like, that's not true. There's a depth thing there. We'll just leave it alone.
I've got evidence. But yeah, I think I just learned everybody's the same size. Like I remember like grade 6 or 7, this kid threw my shoes in the mud. Like I like shoes. And he threw my shoes in the mud. So we like got in a bit of a fight. And I like pushed this kid out of the door and I got on top of him. I just fucking laid into him. And I got suspended. And my dad asked the principal, he's like, is he getting suspended for fighting or is he getting suspended because he won the fight? Because he's like, what about the other kid? And like, well, like, he beat the other kid up. And he's like, but did the other kid throw hands? And they're like, well, yeah, they were in a fight. He's like, so my son's getting suspended because he won? And the guy's like, I guess so.
How do you approach violence being an adult?
How do I approach violence and being an adult?
Yeah.
It depends.
Because it is something like, I mean, you now know, well, there's two things. The consequences of, rolling up on the guy in the portable when you're 8 is like.
Oh, it's slim to none.
Right. But, brandishing a weapon on a city bus is like.
I've done that.
I know you have. That's why I brought it up. But it's like, there is now more than ever as an adult, I just see violence as such a solution, an expedient solution to so many. I was explaining to someone this the other day. Like, the end of any confrontation is a fight.
Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast.
A verbal confrontation is a fight. So it's like, there's a decibel I reach where I decide I'm not going to get any louder. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to start throwing hands. And it's usually if I get to that decibel and people know that the imminent threat of violence is coming, that all my problems are solved.
I feel like if the potential for violence isn't present, I am not interested enough in the topic.
Okay.
That's why I don't argue on the internet.
Sure.
Because I can't beat the other person up. And I think that's why they feel the right to argue on the internet, because they can't get beat up.
So the thing with me was I grew up, and Lundy can attest to this, I was a very physically incapable person until like maybe the 12th grade. The 12th grade, I was like maybe 210-ish. But like up to that point, even in like grade school, I was short, I was fat, I had long hair and glasses.
Should I put the pictures in?
If you
oh my god,
find them,
that'd be so fucking funny.
As long as you throw yours in there too.
I got no problem.
There's some beauties in there. But so I realized really quickly that if hands were not an option or a solution to my problem, then this was. So like
good.
Jeff Nada gave me the nickname Webster in the 5th grade because I would literally read the dictionary. And yeah, well, this should surprise 0 people who know me now.
Oh, you're so much cooler than I am. This explains so much about how we talk on the internet.
But I literally, because I didn't have the physical capacity to overcome anyone, but I was decently smart at a young age.
Good for you.
Well, and that's how I won arguments.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I started training when I was like 15, 16, and around like 22-ish, I was pretty big. Now I had 2 options. Now it's like I could impose physical violence and like bodily harm to you, or I could just beat you with words.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was, I don't know, I guess smart-ish when I was a kid. I don't know, as an only child, I read a lot of books. It's not like I just went around like trying to pick fights with people. Well, I guess I did.
Sounds like it. Sounds like you did.
I did. But no, like I can't remember a grade in school where I didn't get in a physical or multiple physical confrontations.
Really? Okay. See, that's unique. I wasn't like that at all.
Oh, dude, I have no recollection of getting through a grade without beating someone up, getting beat up. Like I've been beat up more times than I've ever beat anyone else.
So does anyone else? I have an easy time believing that.
Yeah, dude, I was like, until I was 23 years old, I was 135 pounds. But I got in fights all the time. Like the opposite understanding of how things go.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then everyone is bigger than me.
It's because everyone's the same size. Because everyone, to you, when you fight, it's not your 220-pound dad who's choking you out. So it's like that.
And that was often my disadvantage. I was like, well, do you want to fight about it? And they were like, yes, I definitely do. Because you're a paperweight.
Right. But so the thing now is I don't know what level is acceptable. Like even because now words are violence. I saw this beautiful thing the other day. It was like back in the 90s, it was sticks and stones may break your bones and words will never hurt you. And now it's like words are literally the only thing that hurt people now.
See, the way I go about it now, and like I like the question of like this idea of like what to do when like if physical violence is the answer, is my exact thing. Like if it is not the answer, then I don't care about the question.
That's fair. So it's like only if you feel strongly enough to engage to the point of engaging with physical violence.
Correct. Otherwise you're completely wasting your time.
It was so funny the other day. We were in the gym. There's a fucking kid over there I do not like at all. He's a total piece of shit. He looks like fucking Lloyd Christmas. And I was telling him, like, I fucking hate this guy. And the gym is the worst version of me. When I'm training, like I just go full just stupid. And I do things just so I can lift weights. I know I look stupid when I do it, but it's how I just get rid of some of the violence because I can't necessarily go out and punch people now. So I can lift these weights and somehow that helps. And this guy, stone face, it was probably the 3rd day we saw this kid in a row. I'm like, God, I fucking hate that kid. And dead face just looks at me and goes, just go punch him in the mouth. And I was just like, it just calibrated everything for me. I'm like, I don't really hate him that bad. But like, it just, all he said was like, he was so confused. Just like, just go punch him in the mouth. Because he didn't say go punch him in the mouth to shut the fuck up, which was what he wanted to say. But it was literally like, that's what I heard when he said that. Because I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. Then I could hear the conversation that happened with him after that. Well, if you're not going to do it, then shut the fuck up about it because it's the third day in a row and I'm sick of hearing about it. So all he said was just go punch him in the mouth. And I obviously didn't. But from that inferred like the rest of our conversation. And it was just like, and then I just shut the fuck up about it. I thought about it last night. I'll never say another word about this kid again. Because there's no point. There's literally no point. Because it's either I hate him enough where I'm going to go actually just walk over to him and break his jaw, or I'm just not going to care. Those are the two options.
See, this is like such a good conversation to listen to because I am nowhere close to either of you. Like my entire life, I was 130 in grade 3.
Oh
like,
man.
I was like probably like 5'2". I was the biggest dude like by 6 inches for my entire life.
It's a big kid.
So I never fought kids because I knew like I could probably hurt you.
Yes.
I could hurt you very bad. So and nobody wanted to fight me. Nobody ever wanted to like, in elementary school for sure. Got into high school, there was a couple guys like, remember Zach Canty?
Yeah.
This guy had like, he would like hide razor blades in his braces or something and carry a screwdriver to school.
Oh my God, what a Windsor kid.
Cody lived with him.
Really?
Cody next door lived with Zach Canty.
Oh, that's a classic.
I'd like to hear some stories. But yeah, and like my whole life has been like, okay, I have to de-escalate this or I have to potentially like when I was young, we got Detroit News in Windsor.
Yeah.
We got Windsor News. You would just see guys like there'd be a bar fight. There was at the Jazz Fest in downtown Windsor.
Right.
Somebody punched a dude in the face. He hit the ground.
Dunzo.
Died.
Yeah.
That guy, manslaughter. And for some reason, shit like that stuck with me because I'm so much bigger that it was like, and it wasn't like my parents I never really had the fight talk. It was always like, if you're in public, conduct yourself accordingly, be good in public.
Oh, it's such a good statement.
I was a piece of shit at home. I like fucking was terrible. When I was in public, I was when I went to school, like they would tell like that we'd get the report cards back. It'd be like very quiet, respectable, you know, sometimes a little chatty, but like very nice to people and whatever. My mom's like, what the fuck? Like, how are you like this at school? And you come home and you're just like, you know, middle child syndrome, like all over the place. But it was because I had to hold it in public, never fight people, never release that anger, that I was just a little shithead with my parents. Like it was.
But your parents also made sure that when you guys were in public, like I remember before I even knew you, I remember your family at the Centennial Pool.
Yeah.
Right. So like I knew of Lundy and his family because the dive team with my sister, and your mom ruled that with an iron fist.
100%.
You would have got smacked upside the head if you stepped out of line in public. Mona would be on your shit.
To this day, it's still
which is great.
Same thing.
But that's like good parenting, right? Yeah. So whether it's his dad being like, here are the consequences. Grade 1, go fuck the kid up. It's like I think that's what a lot of people miss, like because now you're a very well adapted adult, right? Like, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that if you stepped out of line as a kid, there was a consequence, and so many kids don't grow up with that. They don't have that. But I remember when you started playing football. Yeah. So you played football. Lundy played, what were you, like, lineman?
Yeah, offensive and defensive line. Little running back here and there, goal line stuff.
He would literally, no big deal. He's like Uncle Rico, throw the pigskin a quarter mile. And they would have a guy line up at either one of Lundy's legs. Yeah. So they have two guys on Lundy the entire time. And that was how... so you were always had to be like the gentle guy because you knew if you wanted to turn up, you could just absolutely murk kids.
Yeah. And it's like, it was weird that I've been in like maybe 2 fights. I know one for sure and maybe another drunk one. But like the one fight was because, somebody was getting jumped. It was the rank and spanking. I don't know if you remember, if you were there for that. But
when DeBose ran down Hasham?
Dude. Oh, and Mike Dungy, the fastest man alive. If anybody knows Dungy. Mike Dungy, he is the fastest man alive. This dude had 40 yards on him. And I've never seen that kind of like catch-up speed in my life.
He closed quick.
Oh, ripped his belt off and just fucking beat the shit out of him with his belt.
That was a Caribou night.
Yeah.
Oh, good times.
Paint. Was that when the porch broke too?
The porch broke and Igor's head went through the window. It was all one night downtown Windsor.
Anyway, these stories just keep happening. They're ridiculous. Anyway, that was the night I fought, and more like so the guy jumped on Trav and was like punching Trav, but they were friends. He didn't know it was him. So I'm like, oh fuck. So I grabbed them both and I tried to rip the guy off, but I ended up throwing both of them down. Trav's like 240 probably.
Yeah.
The other guy was probably 2 something. So I throw both of them on the ground and I'm like, and all I hear in the background, Trav's getting beat up. And I'm like, oh fuck. So I grab this kid. I don't even know who he is. I start punching him. I get one knee in and Moore comes in and just grabs me. He's like, you're done, Lundy. And I'm like, that was the only time it's ever like switched for me where I was like, the only way that I'm going to stop hitting this person is if somebody physically removes me. And I was like sober enough at that time to like be level-headed and be like, oh yeah, thank you for doing that. Cause this could have been a terrible thing. And it's like, I have so much clarity sometimes, like when like shit goes down, I have the ability to like think like option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one am I picking? And I can just like do it really quick. Like this is where this is going. And it's like, I don't know if it's because of just like experiencing so many different types of people that I know like how someone will react. So I was walking home one time. This was recent. This is probably like within the past 5 years. I was walking home from downtown Windsor and some guy was in front of me and it was like clearly like one of those American dudes who just wants to be in Windsor to fight somebody. And I'm like wasted, like having a good time, walking by myself because I have no fear there. Like it's I'm 6'3", nobody's gonna fuck with me. Well, this fucking kid comes up to me. He's like, "What'd you say?" I was like,
I love that.
What? Like I didn't say anything. And I'm like, just fuck. If this guy pushed me, I probably would have fell over. Like I was in a different world. And he's like, "What the fuck did you say to me?" I was like, "Nothing, bro. I didn't say anything." He lifts up his shirt and like I didn't even look down. I was just staring at him in the eyes. It's like, I didn't say anything. He lifts up his shirt, whatever, knife, gun, whatever it was, wanting me to like entice him. And it's like, just like that, I could have just either got stabbed, shot, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. And it's like, some people can't turn that off. They can't like make that decision in any mindset. And I don't know how I'm able to do it. Maybe it's just like the violence is not what I should be doing thing my whole life that I've thought, but
I think it's so. Here's the thing. Here's where I contrast you two. You have endless options because you're
Sure.
you're 6'3", whatever. Like he has 2 options.
Yeah.
Life or death. Well, not life or death, but like if we're gonna do this, we're going all the way. If this guy goes for the waistband, I gotta get to that waistband quicker. I gotta get to his throat quicker.
Yeah.
sure.
Where you, it's like, well, he grabs it. You know, you can talk him down. Like you've been talking people down from shit. That was your whole job as a kid. All your friends, you were the level head.
100%.
Right? Because we had like these little small scrappy kids that were running around. Like Morsey was fucking just this little scrappy piece of shit.
The voice, I was a friend dad my whole life.
But you had to because like, when you entered into the room, it was situation over, right? Like you were immediately, your presence de-escalated a lot of situations where it's like, Morrissey just had to make a statement. Like all of your friends, all your little scrappy fucking shit rat friends. And don't get me wrong, I love these guys to death.
They're scrappy shit rats.
Right. They're scrappy fucking Windsor shit rats where you look at it and you go, okay, you got something in the waistband. I have one option.
Yeah.
It's fucking go for throat and I'm just going to kill you. My thing has always been minimum effective dose.
See, and I think it really like scales by body weight.
True. Now that we're like talking about it, it's like I have so many more options than you. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and even from like immediate impression, it's like you could be imposing.
Right.
What makes me imposing is my capacity for violence. And that's what my dad told me as a kid. It's like I wasn't big. It's like, you know what's going to scare the other person? Just doing it.
Yeah, you'll go there.
And like I've been beat up so many, dude, like broken nose, black eyes, fucked, cracked ribs. But every time I got beat up, the person who beat me up respected me so much the next day because they're like, dude, he fucking did it.
Yeah.
Like that guy took a lick. And was just like at the end, I was just like, that's me. I go home now. Fucking demolished.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy thing to me is that like even now, it's because you're physically capable, like more so than you were in the first grade up against the portable.
Bajillion.
Right.
%.
But you're also, and like you also still operate just the switch, right? Where he's got levels.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, where's the level? And for me, it's usually, I hate wasting time.
Correct.
Right. And I think we all in navigating these situations, we hate wasting time. So you go, okay, if this is the quickest way to de-escalate the situation. It's for me. It's when I get loud, people usually kind of fall in place. So like I don't have to brandish a weapon. I don't have to do that. But the thing is, I can't now be quiet.
Yeah.
Because like in dealing with the internet people, where I think they called me while I was on this thing, I got 6 months free service for the studio. I could have sat there and been like, no, it's totally fine. You didn't show up between 8 and noon and noon and 8. And I sat there with my fucking thumb up my ass for 12 hours. But it's like, look, there's a decibel I can hit over the phone that this guy's going to give me 6 months of free service. There's a decibel I can hit with a landlord where he's going to fucking not put an eviction notice on my door. So why do literally anything else but that? Like, I'm going to bring it right to the edge that I'm going to not get any louder. I'm just going to kick your ass after this. And that, for me, that's my endpoint. But I can't navigate these options. Like, I can't use a point where it's like, oh, okay, well, no, I understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. If I just come at it like a 2-year-old and just go, no, I don't understand, and just yell, problem solved. And I think there's such a pushback towards that. Like, there's such a pushback towards any sort of confrontation.
You know what? It's the Karen movement. In one way or another. It's like there's people, someone like you who's trying to get something done and who is genuinely like, I have to be somewhere and I have to do something. You're actually like fucking up my day. You're costing me money because I have to do something. Someone like you is fully in their like right and capability to say, I'm fucking pissed off. I'm whatever. You want to help me out? Good. If you don't, fuck you. I'll go somewhere else. With Karens, they just do it because they're cheap fucks, or they want something that someone else has that they don't. They think like, you know, I'm going to argue my phone bill and get $50 taken off because I did it 6 months ago. And I'm just going to do it again because what's the worst that can happen? They say no, and I'm just a bitch. Like, I don't care about these people on the phone, whatever.
Right.
It's the different mentality where it's like yours is justified and theirs is just like because they want to and they just want to fuck shit up. They just want to be a nuisance to the world.
I'm excited for like 2021 or like whenever things start to like, I hate this having to have this conversation, but everything just is a pendulum shift, right? So the political correctness movement, like liberal left, all that stuff, I think has peaked, and we're now starting to see the come down from that. Like the Brian Callen shit, all that Me Too crap, all of that is now like being heavily scrutinized. So I'm really looking forward to see like, what is the overcorrection? Like, are we going to start having brouhahas in the street?
Well, I think like we noticed this with like people getting in car accidents on the way here. Like there is just a plethora of car accidents, people being so disengaged to driving and communicating with other people. And now we have this rule where there's like only a set number of people in a certain space and you have to be so far from one another. Dude, people's level, like people's capacity for being close to other human beings will be so much lower. Yeah. Like I know in the States things have opened up, but here, Toronto is already not a nice place.
Yeah.
And that's like something people don't realize. I think like me and Lundy and you know, it's like people in Toronto aren't polite en masse. Like 90% of people are rude and don't get out of your way.
Canadian New York.
Yeah, and just Canada in general, like being in Toronto, like I don't know what people describe as Canada because I've never been there.
Right.
I'm in Toronto.
Peterborough.
Like,
it's Peterborough.
Yeah, it's like I know Toronto, which is everyone is rude and no one wants to help you and people suck. So it's like, dude, the minute you can get back on the subway en masse again, it's going to be a nightmare.
But I think I'm just like, my whole life makes sense being prepared for this because you're just going to be a sobering presence. Like if you've ever been around a drunk person who all of a sudden, like I was with this dude named John Bond. Shout out John Bond for just having the best name ever. But he owns this gym called Hybrid MMA in Hong Kong and LA. And he lives basically in South Central. And John's got like these... he's kind of got these dead eyes, and he's got like this salt and pepper. He's got
terrifying.
Neck tattoos. He is fucking, and he's completely capable.
Yeah.
And he said he was on like a subway or something, or on a bus in LA, and someone was like losing their shit, totally strung out, like bath salts, some shit like that. And they walked on like, everyone give me your whatever, and then like looked at John and said, "Hey man," and then walked off the bus. And it's like that kind of thing is. I totally agree that people are going to be sort of caged up and they're going to be frustrated, but they're going to see you, they're going to see me, and they're going to be like,
It's funny. I was in the elevator yesterday at my condo, and I had that "Not Welcome" shirt on. So shout out American Barbell Club, our boy John.
Well, let's describe this shirt quickly.
So the shirt says, and everyone needs to go out and buy the shirt right away.
100%, AmericanBarbellClub.com.
Yeah. So John has this shirt, and it says "Not Welcome," and it has a clan member strung up in a noose.
Yeah.
So I wear the shirt like all the time, especially when we train. And I got to my condo, and I forgot that I was just wearing this T-shirt. And it was like this mom and a friend or a daughter or something. And I was like, I opened the door for them. I pressed the button for the elevator. They were talking to each other. They didn't really pay attention to me. I got in the elevator, and it was just there was nothing to pay attention to except for each other. I was like, oh, what floor do you want? And they were like, oh, 9. So I pressed it. And they looked at me, and she went, that's not a very welcoming shirt. And I was like, it's not supposed to be. She's like, oh, I guess you don't make friends. I was like, I don't make friends with fucking racists.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. And she just looked at me and she went, yeah, I guess not. And it's like, but that shirt is like in its entirety. I love this "Not Welcome" shirt because it describes what we were describing.
Right.
I feel no type of way about anything at all unless I really like it or really fucking hate it.
Sure.
And it's like, I wear that shirt because I am not afraid that someone's going to be like, man, that shirt, because I honestly want to slit their throat.
Right. Yeah, that's fair, man. Like, if someone wants to take you to trial on the anti-racism shirt, that's because you can't be on the fence about it. And that's what I like about, and that's John to a T. It's like, you're never curious about where you stand with him, and there's no half measure. It's like, well, racism. It's like, no, if you're either burning crosses or you're comfortable wearing the shirt with the guy getting strung up with the noose. It's that, and if it's not that, then it's the other, right? So that's an interesting anecdote to prove exactly what we were saying. It's like
I'll wear that shirt anyways, anywhere. I get groceries in that shirt. If someone's like, nah, that shirt's kind of like, dude, I'm gonna skull fuck you.
What blows me away is that we live in a society where someone who isn't willing to die on that hill is even comfortable enough bringing that up. Like, this is clearly an unhinged individual on this particular topic. He's wearing a hooded Klans member hung up by a rope on his T-shirt. This should give you some insight to the personality of the guy in the elevator. You don't talk to him, right? That's essentially him having a face tattoo. Going like, well, it was an interesting choice. Like, yeah, but it's one that he clearly made, and he's ready to make another drastic one if you're willing to. It just blows me away that the sensitivity and that pendulum shift to the left has just left so little consequence to air that conversation like in front of you that it's something that you even have to deal with.
The idea that someone would look at a shirt of a Klansman being strung up and go, you think violence is a little aggressive? It's like, are you fucked?
Yeah.
Are you fucked?
But this is the same generation that brought you like people that just haphazardly throwing around the word abuse.
Oh,
right? I've had that happen to me. Like, oh, he was abusive. It's like, really? Because you didn't get what you wanted out of a situation, that's abuse? Or like Nazi, we talked about this. Oh. You can't just throw around the word Nazi. Like there's a historical connotation. There's a severity to that. There's a gravity to that.
On a podcast the other day, somebody was describing some regime as almost equivalent to that of the Nazi regime.
Get the fuck out of here.
And I almost ripped the radio out of my car.
Yeah. Do you imagine driving by the Elantra? Boom, there goes the tape deck.
And I hate the idea that we can find these like bizarre gradients in relationships to things that aren't the same.
Right.
And like that's the thing with saying Nazi. Like, don't say that.
Right.
It's not. Like, that is a severe thing.
But there's no consequence to saying it.
Yeah.
And then that leads you down the path of, this lady talking about your shirt. Because if there was a consequence, she wouldn't say it.
No.
But I think the pendulum is going to shift back where people are going to be a little bit more tight-lipped. Like, keep your fucking opinion to yourself, right? Unless you're right. Unless your opinion is like, this elevator turns into a fucking 7th-floor steel cage death match.
It looks like that scene in Drive, and you're just skull stomping.
But here's
someone.
the thing: I don't think there's enough people who care enough about shit to actually fucking throw hands.
No, and I think like that, even from when I was a kid, like you mentioned, like, does my mom like my dad, or what does my mom think of it? No, she hates violence, but I think anytime I've ever like said something to my mom, she's always just been like, well, this is what the consequence would be. And I'd go, whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, well, that's the consequence.
Yeah, I think take it to the end and reverse engineer it. Like me with Buddy that I fucking can't stand at the gym. Like, were you going to punch him in the face? And I was like, oh, okay, I should shut the fuck up then. You didn't have to say it, but that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Right? So I think people should assume, and that's one thing whenever I do anything, it's like, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah, and I think that was always my mom. It's like, well, this is what would happen.
Yeah.
And I would go, all right. And she's like, no, that's really what would happen. And like, we're not bailing you out.
Well, and it calibrates your own meaning for it.
Yeah. It's like, is it worth that?
Is it worth it? Yeah. And I think the sad part is, and the reason we see so much inaction and voyeurism and all this stuff is because no one cares enough about anything to actually do it.
Correct.
So they just peripherally watch it from the sidelines. And then they say, yay, oh, boo, yeah. It's just like, fuck, who has time? Go do your own thing.
It's like that meme of like that fat dude with like the chips, and he's like commenting on the UFC. And he's like, no, you know what I do? I put him in the triangle. And I give him the Kimura or some shit. Yeah. It's like, no, you wouldn't. You don't go do it.
Yeah.
Go do jujitsu. Like, why do you have to listen to Joe Rogan? You can do jujitsu.
Yeah.
You can roll around at home.
That's what I love about violence. Is it's so definitive. It's so actionable. It only exists in action.
Correct.
There's no theoretical behind it, right? Like the theoretical, because you can sit there. It's like learning how to swim on the internet. It's like, gives a fuck. Right? You just got to go out and do it, and it is the most heightened primal form of consequence. You could die.
Yeah.
So you better make it worthwhile. I don't know. I'm violence 2021. I'm hoping for a comeback.
I think it's going to be the complete opposite.
What do you mean?
I'm on the internet a lot.
Fair.
You know, I'm a trendy girl when it comes to that kind of stuff. I like looking at the TikToks and that. What I'm seeing on the internet is so different than what our generation would be in real life. So we were kind of on the cusp of social media. I remember when Facebook was brought in, like I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like, this is Facebook. Okay, this is MySpace. This is this. None of that was I don't want to say it was like live. None of it was like happening and you knew it happened at that exact time. Right. This is what's going on. It was like this is what you think. This is, hey, today I went to the mall. Like that was cool. Yeah. You didn't really have data on your phones all that much. It wasn't as
it wasn't the 24-hour news feed.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think that's important because with TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, things like that, it's immediate and you can say something, say what you're thinking, leave and forget about it and never do it again. So there's no, like it's almost like you're fighting in that moment and then you just let it go. And people don't care that because they'll never see these people.
And that's where I disagree. Like I had a flight booked to Denver to beat the shit out of a guy with a hammer because he talked crap in the air. Because how many fights do we know in kids with MySpace top friends or some bullshit?
Yeah.
Or he was at a party. Like how many people there were absolutely very real, very violent physical consequences of the way you operate on the internet when it was MySpace and early Facebook days.
True.
Status update. You tagging with this guy? What the fuck you this guy for? Right, you were the fucking kids from St. Joe's. All right, meet at Suicide Hill. We're all gonna fight. We're all gonna go to Igor's house and fight in his fucking driveway. Like there was very real, very violent consequences, and I think because when the world, and maybe I'm speaking just for myself or someone who would absolutely fly to Denver to beat the shit out of someone. Once the world opens up again, it's like I think there's going to be consequences. I think there's going to be a few examples made where it's like. Because you can find everyone now because of what you're saying. Because of like, so-and-so just checked in here. Yo, let's roll.
Pop Smoke.
Right. Yeah, dude. Pop Smoke. Did you know the Pop Smoke story?
No.
So Pop Smoke got ran up on in an Airbnb in Beverly Hills because he posted a story of a bunch of packages he got with the address on it.
Shit.
And he had like posted him in a car with a bunch of money and then posted like all the bags he bought and had his address. And at like 3 a.m., dudes rolled up on him, killed him.
That's crazy.
See me and this guy.
Well, here's my thing though is like those people who would do that were always going to do it.
Correct.
So I think what I'm trying to say is that the people coming up now, the people, I would say, I don't even 10, 20 and under now, maybe like even a little bit like 21, 22 and under is very much so the internet. Like they are mostly internet people. Like if you take you look at the internet, you're like, this fucking sucks. These people suck.
Yeah.
I hate all these people. There's one cool person. Thanks for fucking being cool. I want to say 80% of the shit I read on the internet is just dog shit. People who just love to argue and want to just fucking cause problems.
But I think they're going to cause problems for someone in our generation. They're going to get clapped.
Hopefully. I fucking hope so. But I don't think there's any people in that age group that want to be like, I'm going to fight this person. Because it's been so, even like you look at sports now. You look at hockey, there's not like
it's not the same.
Back in the day when they would fight, you'd fuck If you fucked with somebody, if you fucked with a Datsuk, a Gretzky, a player like a player who was good, you sent out the fourth line. You sent out fucking
catching hands from Darren McCarty, man.
Bingo. And you got the shit kicked out of you.
Instagram account is amazing.
Yeah. I gotta see it.
Dude, so McCarty's good. Like, if you're listening to this, get yourself some help.
Let's get him on the podcast. I'm doing it. I'm reaching out.
Have you heard about like
he's a beauty.
All about like McCarty's like gambling issues?
Yeah, dude, I've seen it.
It's amazing.
He's literally like if Britney Spears played hockey. Yeah. Like that's exactly where he's at.
Had $0 and probably negative like a bazillion because of his gambling. And Mike Ilitch took him on and was like, you're going to be a brand ambassador and we're going to fucking pay off your bookies and you're going to fucking figure it out. Yeah. You're not going to make any money here. You know, we'll pay for you to live, whatever. You make fucking $70,000 a year. We're paying the millions of dollars you fucking spent in gambling.
You get to keep all your fingers.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know, man. I feel like 10-year-olds right now are coming up and they're sick of fucking kids that are 20. And 10-year-olds are going to be the baddest dudes on the planet. They're going to come out like lathing weapons, like whittling shit. Like they're just going to be they're going to be good to go. That's what I hope. Because it ebbs and flows, right? Like this is just a massive overcorrection magnified by social media. I feel the pushback on this is going to be big. And like when we're like 50, 60, we're going to see like 20-year-olds going like, yeah, fuck yeah. And we're just going to be both just beating up fucking 30-year-olds.
I guess so when we make kids and they turn 20, we'll say if we made a kid this year, 20 years from now, those kids are going to be fucking people
gangsters.
up.
Oh,
like,
dude.
Gangs in New York shit.
It makes sense.
So stoked.
Is it not weird to you? I feel like in a plus or minus 3-year area of our lives, people were like, things made sense more to those
100%.
Yeah. The things that they thought, the values and like the things is like, why the fuck are you doing that? Like, don't you know this? Or like, why? Like, people seem to just be smarter. Not smarter, just like they are more aware of like everything going on. Whereas like you get even younger and it's like internet, you live on the internet. You get a little bit older. It's like, I only know what I know because
when the internet was like incepted into us, if that's even the right word. Like we had because think of it this way, right? If you were growing up, and this is a really weird example, but it just comes to mind. If you were growing up in Germany and you were 14 in like the late 20s, early 30s, you were 100% a Nazi. Without a doubt. Mm-hmm. Your ability to not reach any sort of physical or mental developmental milestones prior to the propaganda train hitting you were all in all day, every which way. But if you were like, I mean, that one Robert Browning book, Ordinary Men, it's like if you were like 40 and this fucking art school failed dropout guy with the Chaplin stash comes on, it's like, well, you're like, fuck, dude, I got a mortgage. Yeah. Man, like, can you fuck off with this stuff? Like, yeah, dude. My neighbor's a Jew. He's all right. Like, he mows my lawn sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? He wouldn't give a fuck. I feel like we're that. We're enough.
I agree with that.
We're enough in it where like we had values established by us by a generation of baby boomers who had values instantiated by them, but people who went to war.
Correct.
Right. And then so we knew real consequence growing up because a lot of us. Old man's fucking, you got to go 12 rounds bare knuckle with Andy, or, you know, you got to deal with Mona grabbing the spoon. Hey, don't talk to your grandmother like that, right? And it's the same on my end. It's like Louise like ruled with an iron fist, but it was enough to be like, okay, the internet hit us hard when we were like maybe 17 or 18, and we had our boots in the ground. But these kids, they grow up with their head in the fucking cloud, and it's like there's no grounding in morality and reality. So I think that's what makes our generation like extreme. Like you're what, 92?
Yeah.
We're 90. I would say, you know, even back to maybe my sister's in 87. Yeah. Like maybe 87-ish to like 90. I want to say 95 maybe is the cutoff. Yeah. Anytime outside of there, you're maybe too old. Like, oh, what's this? I can't keep up with this. And then any further afield, you're like, oh, yeah, no, TikTok. That sounds great. Yeah, no, data here. Take all my information. It's like, for fuck's sakes. But I think pendulum shifts are coming, man. I think violence due for a comeback.
I wouldn't hate it.
All right. Violence is the answer. I don't know. I
kill people.
Lundy, where do people find you? Because I get so many people reach out to me and just fucking contact you directly.
The dark web. I really got to get my social media figured out because I don't post on it because I just look at things.
We have a whole podcast on that.
What's your prescript? What's your prescript email?
klundy@pre-script.com.
Okay, guys, when you reach out to us because our podcast looks and sounds sick, it's because of Lundy. So go and just hit him up at klundy@prescript.com so you can stop fucking messaging me about it. Cool?
Just keep messaging Shallow.
For fuck's sakes. All right. Okay.
Just kidding.
Wicked.